Okay, so I just went over this really quick, and you know what I did? I didn't even put any Bondo on or even fiberglass, Dynaglass. It's just panel adhesive over the wells. And what I used to grind down the wells was this. The panel adhesive was this. It's a little air grinder, but it's one of those rust buster brushes. Now you see all this jaggedy edge. Actually, there's a piece that goes over. There's a plastic that goes over this, so that gets all covered up. The only thing you're going to see is this little spot right here. And are you going to notice that? Hell no. This is all covered up. So I was going over the floor here. I knew there was a little rust right here and the side. I figured, let me go over this and pull this floor up. And I noticed I went through the hole here with this. There was a hole right here. It was just starting. It was just really weak. Now, what I'm going to do to fix this, I'm not going to weld something in. I'm actually going to use the panel adhesive because it's 16 gauge. Just going to make a little patch panel, grind that down, put the panel adhesive on it, let it dry. Going over all this rust. I'm not going to get all the rust off, but I'm going to get all the loose stuff off with this thing. I got to put the mask on to do that shit, obviously. But I'll grind this down, put a little 16 gauge panel in here. It's not structural, it's just a tiny little 1-inch hole, right? I mean, it's nothing. It'll be Rust Veto 344 Cosmoline, the stuff that's about over an 1/8 inch thick on the bottom. And before I even do that, it's going to be primed, painted, and truck bed lined before you freaking put that crap. That Cosmoline is going to be a final coat over all my paint on the bottom. This floor, I'll take everything out of here eventually too, but I want to make sure. I noticed on this driver's side there was anything I could kind of pull up without pulling the seats out. I want to get to that right now, in case it's a year later or some shit. You don't know, right? I want to do as much as I possibly can while this thing is apart. So anyway, I'll put this. I'm gonna wait for this to dry. I'll put the plastic shit back on. I'll put this together. I ain't gotta sand this down yet. This is gonna go real fast. This will look smooth as snot, and that'll be perfect. So it's looking okay. My goal here again is not to restore the car, is to preserve the car and fix. Put new metal in. Maybe I'm gonna be cheating a little bit with the. It's not. That panel adhesive is not freaking Bondo. It's not fiberglass. That stuff. That's how they're putting the cars together. Half the cars today, half of the parts on the cars today are put together with panel adhesive. They glue the rocker panels on. They glue half the quarter panels on. They glue most of the door skin on, or all the door skin on. For that one little 1-inch hole, when I grind that out and put a 16 gauge piece of metal in there shaped, chemically clean with some panel adhesive, it'll be just as good as welding. Believe me, it's nothing structural, and it'll be coated and everything. So anyway, it's going along okay. It takes a little more time because I keep finding some more shit, but that's the whole goal, is to get rid of everything, not to restore it, not to do a hack and pack, but to preserve, fix and preserve, and not necessarily get it to the freaking factory original, but get it so it lasts. Yeah, and guess who comes by right in the middle of when I'm mixing up the panel adhesive? Mr. Cat. And that's the cat. She came right by when I was mixing up the panel adhesive. So it's like going meow, meow, meow. So I'm trying to hurry up. I'm like, hey, baby, chill out. So she's got some chicken and some meow mix dried. And of course, the water with a little bit of colloidal silver. So I'll show you what I did. I'm pretty finicky. It's my spotlight going around here. I'm pretty finicky how I mix this stuff. That's the patch panel that's over there. That ain't going nowhere. This will be all coated with rust reformer. I'm probably going to lightly sandblast it, get all the rust off it. Eventually I will pull the whole rug up. I'm going to go look as much as I can. I think the driver's side got it the most because of this is the side that's exposed from the carport. But what I do was I chemically clean I grind the panel, cut it to size, chemically clean it, grind it again, then chemically clean it again. That makes sure this stuff really sticks. And it's this shit. That stuff don't go anywhere, man. It's not JB Weld, man. It's freaking permanent. And it's just about the next best thing to welding. For a little freaking patch like that, it should be fine. That's 16 gauge, all chemically clean. It's going to get, like I said, rust killing primer, coat of enamel. And eventually we'll pull the whole thing up and put the Rust Veto 344 on it, which is a real thick, like hardening cosmoline. It's like an 1/8 inch thick. Shit will never rust. So, piece at a time, baby. Piece at a time. It's time consuming, but I'm doing it right, actually, even though it's not a restoration progress. It's this shit will stop rust. It'll stop it cold. Well, I just kind of pulled up the corner of the carpet here, and I was going over it with the die grinder with this wheel on it, just to bust the rust off. Then I was going to wipe it down with some chemically clean it off. I noticed, if you see back there, maybe I'll do it this way. You see through there? Hole. See that? That looks like a drilled hole, 1/8 inch hole right there. So I'm going to do is, I'm just going to fill that up with panel adhesive and clean it up with the Dremel. And you know what happens? Say for instance, like this is a car up in the Northeast. All you got to do is have an 1/8 inch hole up there, and when that brine gets in there, it's not just salt. It's salt mixed with something else. It's like worse than salt water. That brine gets in there and sits under this rug. That'll rust this out really fast. Now that's one reason I want to have Rust Veto 344 on both sides of this thing sandwiched together. But right now, for now, I want to get this driver's side. You know, it's probably mostly this driver's side. And I'll chemically clean it. Just give it a some rust reformer, rust-only rust reformer, and a coat of you know, high-quality silver enamel or something gray enamel, kind of like close to that same color, but maybe a little shinier. But first, you know, this, I had to wait for this to dry. And actually, if you look at this didn't come out bad because this gets covered up. This is just the molding here. That I didn't touch. That's how that was from the factory. It's just this. It's a little, you know, it's a little bit, you know, if you really get finicky with it, it's like freaking nothing. Like that right there. That's my repair. Right there. That's all you'll see. This will be covered up. So it's good to go, man. It's good to go, actually. So I'm going to go over this with the Dremel right now. This Dremel is good for just getting in there, just to grind up shiny metal. The cutting wheel, but it's just, I'm just going to go over it like that, grind up shiny metal, put some of that panel adhesive on there, and it'll be fixed. It'll be fixed. I just got to do a section at a time, man. This is the way to do it, because anytime I want to drop this car down off the ground and go ahead and use it, I can. It's not in a million pieces, right? That's the way I'm doing it, this way. Yeah, since one of the holes was a little big, I cut out a little tiny piece of metal. This is just 18 gauge because it's really going over a hole that's maybe a 1/4 inch big, and it'll be filled up. I'm going to chemically clean this stuff, though. Chemically clean. I just cut this out with the Dremel tool, and clean the areas with the Dremel tool, but chemically clean, blown off with air. And then we're going to put the panel adhesive over that little 1/8 inch hole, 2 1/8 inch holes, and a 1/4 inch hole. It's going to have a plate over it, and then we'll let it dry. So, you know, I'm doing it right, but wrong, right? It's not going to freaking fall apart. One piece at a time. Like I said, you can drive it at any time. Okay, so we're going to get some rust reformer on there. This is stuff, I keep a lot of this on hand. And professional high performance enamel, like a grayish silver color. Should be pretty close to the original. And like I said, after we're going to pull up the whole freaking thing eventually, but just want to get this thing protected where the worst area is. And if you want to mix up this stuff, again, this is pretty expensive stuff, but man, it is strong junk. Make sure it's chemically clean, ground down to clean metal. It will stick like it's welded. As a matter of fact, cars that get in accidents that have quarter panels bonded on there with this panel adhesive, this stuff does not split. It won't split, it bends. And what I like doing is mixing it up either with a little spatula, or I break the ends off of a fork and mix it up that way. Mix the shit out of it though, because you really can't tell. It's really designed for mixing gun. So We're gonna get this cleaned up in here. Yeah, this is the rust reformer going over it. That'll change the rust to, it'll chemically change the rust itself. And like I said, I went over this with vacuumed it out, chemically cleaned it, blew it out with air. You know, you saw I went over it with the this thing to roughen up the metal, roughen up the paint, whatever paint was on there, and then I wiped it down with paper towels, blew it out, did it a few times. It's not like perfectly chemically clean, but it should be okay. It should stick pretty good. It should stick pretty good, especially to the rust. This will convert that rust anywhere it's starting, and then it'll get a coat of that professional, whatever you call it, professional. This stuff here. That's about the best Rust-Oleum, and you know, as long as it's not UV out in the sun, this stuff holds up a long time. Then, like I said, it's getting Rust Veto 344 mil spec, like an 1/8 inch thick, which is paintable, weldable, the whole other ball 9 yards. Even if I have to weld a plate in there with that Rust Veto 344 on both sides of it, I can still weld through it. That's why I'm planning this ahead for impervious to the elements. Well, I just did a quick coat of the enamel, let it dry, and move that stupid can and get underneath the can too. And you put this plastic shit on and do that tomorrow, and then I'll go into the door. Yeah. Well, last time I ever did any work on these body work, actually this would have been a brand new car. Or it wouldn't even been out. Actually, I was working on the 60s cars doing collision work with my friend. He was the guy though, that knew the shit. Now this thing, I had a hard time getting this stupid piece of plastic out of here, and I already ground this down quite a bit. But you know what? I'm going to grind it down some more with this tool right here, and make it fit. Because you know what? This is not a restoration. But you know what? If they're doing this like a restoration, like the way they do collision work back in the early 70s on a 60s car, that's how it would be put in. You think we're going to freaking waste all day trying to get that bitch in there? Nope, we modify it. And you really can't notice anything. This actually is the weather strip adhesive, right? Though the weather stripping got a little paint on it. But yeah, it's not really. This is actually lumpy over here from the factory. So it's a little. There's no Bondo. It's just panel adhesive and metal. So you can't tell. You can't tell nothing. So next thing is I'm going to do that tonight. Just sand it down, put probably skim coat of Bondo on it, and you'll see it in a second. Okay, so that's all done. I didn't even tape this off. I just wiped, when I got overspray on it, sprayed a little starting fluid on a rag. Just wiped it off here and here. You know, quick. What I'm going to do is then I'm going to get on the inside with rust reformer. I can spray on the inside of this. Then I'm going to give it a coat of enamel. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to do all on the inside, even this part up here on the roof, because this can get smacked up when I'm putting stuff inside the bed. I'm going to do it with spray can Rust-Oleum and automotive quality Rust-Oleum clear. So I'll do all that down here where your feet scrape on there, where you can get something screwed up in here. You know, a rust spot can come through on the bottom or something. And this I'm just going to use an automotive single stage enamel with I'm just going to tape it off. I'm not going to even pull off most of the chrome. It's just going to get taped off. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to spray some industrial grade. After I paint it, I'll spray some industrial grade Cosmoline behind this chrome. So anywhere it goes into those things, it should stop it from rusting. You know, it's Mickey Mouse, but you know what? I'm not really here to make it into a, you know, restoration. Like I said, I'm making it into a car that I can fix and repair easily. Like if I want to just, you know, if I get a scratch on the bottom or something down here, get a can of this shit, DA it down, get a can of that shit, maybe put some clear on it, and done. I might not even clear the bottom, I'll probably just clear the top. And I'm going to constantly go over on the inside with rust reformer enamel followed by cosmoline, or rust reformer followed by truck bed lining followed by, you know, something, rubberized waterproof undercoating or something. My whole idea is to keep this damn thing preserved, keep it from rusting, and use the shit out of it. So there you go, quick and dirty. Next step is to get on with this door, and I want to put everything away. Then I'm going to get down here. I don't think this door is going to be that bad, because I'm not going to replace shit. I'm going to replace this corner. I'm going to put a little patch up in there, maybe a little patch in here with metal, and a lot of this stuff is just going to get filled with panel adhesive and then ground down on the inside too, and with rust reformer, enamel, truck bed lining, and then probably the cosmoline after that when I get a gallon or so of that stuff.